Ladies and gentlemen, rainy morning, and I think some people are still stuck in traffic. Anyhow, I think we will stick to our time and continue. So, as and when people come, they will join in. Uh, Today we have a fairly lengthy program, and I'm very happy. I welcome you all who have managed to come here with all the rain and the traffic problems. Let me first start with something about the International Foundation for Aviation, Aerospace and Drones. Now, this was started somewhere around 2004-5 in Montreal, and Dr. Asad Kotet, who was for 30 years president of ICAO, he was our first sort of honorary chairman or governor, as we called him there. And we started this society with a lot of people from ICAO, IATA, and other places. And slowly it evolved. It's still functioning there. In 2007, we started a kind of a chapter, and that time it was called International Foundation for Aviation and Development. Basically, it was aviation based. But in India, we started changing. We had more programs. We added aerospace. We added space, and we had a few programs on space over the years. And now, recently, in this year, we've added drones, because drones is the up and coming thing, which unfortunately India is lagging behind very badly. But we started that. So now we are called International Foundation for Aviation, Aerospace and Drones. So we are a kind of non-profit organization, and also without any funding source. So we take contributions and we do these programs on our own. We have no particular major benefactor who helps us out. So with this kind of a few words, I will say that the our International Foundation for Aviation, Aerospace and Drones has completed 10 years here, and we have done, I think, quite well. We've had a number of conferences and seminars, which is available on our website. Even website needs to be improved, which we are going to do in this year. Okay, so now let me get back to the main subject of today's conference, which is Indian perspective on space security. Now, space is no more a realm of stories or anything like that. Space is now a matter of our daily life. If space is cut off, I think there'll be no GPS, telephone connections will go haywire up to a point. Internet will also get impacted. Whole lot of other things we are dependent on are going to be affected. So space is very much part of our daily life. It's a very essential part of our running in the modern world. And we are dependent on space assets. Each country has space assets, or at least the major countries. India has been a space-faring country for a long time, since early 60s. And we have developed our own space assets, which are running. Our satellites are running, and we are becoming a major space power. We are, in fact, a major space power. Our Chandrayaan 2, which was to leave yesterday, has got delayed, but I'm sure it's going to take off in the next few days or weeks. So what is it that we are discussing today? It's more about how do we manage these space assets? How do we arrange their security? Now, let's go back to aviation. I want to discuss aviation for a little while to give you an example of what we are talking about. In 1944, led by United States, a conference was called in Chicago, which is known as Chicago Convention. Chicago Convention created the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is now based in Montreal. This ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization, which is better known as ICAO, has had about 75 years of its existence. It has made a major change in the way we travel now. From practically non-existent commercial airlines in 1944, today air travel has become an extremely common, fast and efficient way of travel. Beyond that, air travel today is evolving and is growing. Why? Because it has been properly regulated by ICAO. It is the safest form of transport today. The safety and security measures are part of ICAO's rules and regulations, which they make, which everybody follows. Not only that, they do an audit of countries, member countries, to see their safety and security is in place or not. So what I'm trying to bring about is that you need a proper regulation. Now, what has happened, even now, things are not so good. We have the example of 9/11 incident in New York, and in 2011, what happened? We've had MH17. We've had Kanishka crash of our own Air India crash in 1985. It was bombed over Ireland. So these are incidents which have taken place over time, and for that, every time there's discussion, there's more legislation, there is more tightening of the system. So where are we now? Aviation is going to change very fast. Whether it is going to be suborbital flights or is going to be space tourism to start with, is going to take place in the next maybe a decade. Already tickets are being sold, everybody's working towards it. The billionaires, the IT billionaires of US are putting their money into space in a big way. So it's going to come, and we have to be prepared for it. So I think we are now kind of in a situation of 1944, where we need a regulation. We need a regulator for space. Today, space is totally ungoverned. It is left to the country concerned how to manage it, what to do with it. But as such, there is only one body which manages a bit of space, and that is the UN Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Totally inadequate and not having the full powers which, say, in civil aviation ICAO has. So I have been, in a way, advocating that there is a need now to start a regulator for the space. Now, interestingly, airspace and outer space are two places, and yet there is no definition of where airspace ends and outer space starts, either in the aviation sector or in the space sector. So it is still a very vague sort of an area, with individuals making claims up to 100 kilometers, or there's some common line proposed by somebody that it should be 100 kilometers or less or more. So, but the aircrafts are flying around 30, 40, 50,000 feet, not little more, which is not very much if you calculate kilometers in it. So there is a need now, very serious need, for a regulator, international regulator for space activities. And another thing about space is the debris part. With so much of debris floating around, the moment you go beyond the limits of air, that there is a danger coming there also. So between these two, we need a regulator. Every country which has assets needs to secure its assets, like anybody else. If you have a house, you have any property, you need to secure your property, you need to secure your assets. And to that extent, there is a need for a regulator. And I've always been saying that International Civil Aviation Organization should be given charge of near space. And they have enough requisite capability to make rules and regulations for near space travel. The moment, now human space flights are going to take place soon. So we need some sort of a proper regulation. United States, I think about 15 years back, came out with Commercial Space Act for commercial space transportation. They are already proactive on this subject, and they have passed it on to Federal Aviation Authority. That's why I'm trying to compare that, they feel that the aviation side can look after the commercial space activities at least for the low Earth orbit. So I think to that extent, I think I would go along with them that they have also thought about it and decided it. So where do we move from here? Space security and space assets are two very big things which need to be discussed now, and to find out how we can meet the needs of the next generation of uh, of our travel, of our assets, and how to meet all these activities. So this conference is really about space security and what is India's perspective on it. And with this, I would like to say in the end that I think we are reaching a stage where every country cannot start doing their own space security. There is a need for international regulator, and I would request this committee also to consider this kind of a plea which I am making. So today's conference is going to discuss many of these things. Hopefully it will be able to achieve some positive recommendations. Thank you very much.